Boss refused to give me time off for my daughter's surgery when I begged. He yelled, "Your personal problems are not my concern." I quietly resigned the next day, 2 weeks later. He called me desperate, saying, "Please come back. The clients are leaving." I laughed and said, "Oh, you have no idea what's coming. I never thought I'd be the type of person to quit a job without warning. I used to be the kind of employee who would power through anything. Illness, long hours, even missed family events, because I knew my work was important. But then something happened. Something that made me realize how little some people care about you. How easily they can brush you aside when you're just another number on their payroll. And I reached a point where I knew I couldn't keep pretending that things were okay. It all started with my daughter, Sophia. She was born with a heart condition, one that required multiple surgeries over the years. This particular surgery was going to be one of the big ones, the one that would either give her a fighting chance or leave us with an uncertain future. Her doctors had been monitoring her for months, and the date had finally arrived. It wasn't just another checkup, it was a serious procedure, and she needed someone there with her afterward. Someone she trusted. Someone like me, her mother. I work in a small marketing agency in Greenwood, a quiet town in the Midwest. It's a place where people know each other's business, and nothing stays a secret for long. I'd been with the agency for 5 years. In the beginning, it felt like a family, small enough that the boss knew every employee's name, and we all worked together on projects, often staying late to hit deadlines. But as the company grew, so did the pressure. Clients became harder to please, and Steve Harper, the owner, became colder, more distant. He was a good talker, a smooth operator. He could charm anyone into believing that he had your best interests at heart. But deep down, I knew he was all about the bottom line. If you didn't meet his standards, you were easily replaced. When Sophia's surgery was scheduled, I knew that I couldn't let my job interfere. I had to be with her. She was my priority, no question about it. But I also knew I had to ask for time off. And asking Steve for time off? That was always a tricky situation. He didn't like it when people asked for anything personal. Everything was about work, clients, deadlines, profits, family. Not so much. I typed out an email. It was polite, professional, and to the point. I explained that Sophia's surgery was coming up and that I needed a few days off to be with her. I didn't ask for much, just a couple of days. I even offered to work from home or catch up on the workload later. I figured it was a reasonable request. Boy, was I wrong. Steve's response was everything I feared. He didn't even try to sound sympathetic. He didn't say, "I understand, this must be difficult." He didn't offer any compromise. He simply said, "Your personal problems are not my concern. You know how important this project is. I can't afford to lose you for a few days right now. If you need time off, figure something out." I stared at that email, speechless. It felt like a punch in the gut. How could he be so heartless? This wasn't just any situation, it was my daughter's life. But to Steve, it didn't matter. To him, I was just another worker. Someone he could push around as long as the work got done. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to explode in anger, but I knew that wouldn't change anything. So, I did something I don't normally do. I went into his office, hoping to have a real conversation. I'd been with the company long enough that I thought I deserved that. I knocked on the door and walked in. "Steve," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Please, this surgery is really important. I can't just leave Sophia alone in the hospital. I'm asking for just a few days. I can make up the time later. You don't understand. She needs me." Steve didn't look up from his computer. He didn't even seem to care that I was there. When he finally spoke, his words were sharp, almost mocking. "You think I care about your kid's surgery?" he sneered. "You think I don't have my own problems to deal with? This company is running on a tight schedule, and if you can't handle it, maybe you should rethink your priorities." My heart sank. He was looking at me like I was an inconvenience, like I was asking for something unreasonable. I couldn't believe it. I had worked late nights for him, picked up the slack when other employees failed to deliver, and this was how he treated me? I left his office without saying another word. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break down, but inside, I was crushed. This was my daughter, my flesh and blood, and he couldn't even find it in himself to be human about it. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, talking it over with my husband David. We were both scared. Scared about the surgery. Scared about what would happen if I didn't take time off. But we were more scared of the idea that I could keep working for someone who didn't care about us. I wasn't going to beg him anymore. I wasn't going to let him dictate my life. The next morning, I didn't just ask for time off. I quit. I sent Steve an email, a short one. It wasn't filled with anger or frustration. It wasn't a dramatic outburst. It was just a simple resignation letter. I told him I was leaving the company, effective immediately. I didn't give him any room to talk me out of it. I knew it was the right decision, and I wasn't going to let him make me feel guilty for putting my family first. 2 weeks passed. I focused on Sophia. The surgery went well, and I stayed with her every step of the way. But I kept thinking about Titiline, about how it was falling apart without me. I didn't have to be there to know it. Steve wasn't capable of handling things on his own. The stress was too much. He had no idea what it took to keep things running smoothly, and now he was about to learn the hard way. Then, one day, my phone rang. It was Steve. I didn't answer at first, but then curiosity got the better of me. I picked up. "Please," he begged, his voice different than I remembered. "I need you. The clients are leaving and I don't know what to do. Please come back." For a moment, I felt a little bit of satisfaction. He was desperate. I could hear it in his voice. But I wasn't about to fall for his manipulation. I had made my decision. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It wasn't a laugh of joy. It was a laugh of realization. The kind of laugh you have when you finally understand how stupid someone else is. "Oh, Steve," I said, my voice calm. "You have no idea what's coming." I hung up, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to that job, to his demands, to the constant stress. It was over. But little did I know, this was just the beginning. Things were about to get a whole lot worse for Steve, and I wasn't about to save him. A week after I quit, I thought I was done. I really did. I had no intention of looking back, and I was finally at peace. My daughter was recovering well, and I was putting everything I had into making sure she was okay. But then the calls started coming in. It started with the emails, about a dozen of them. They were all from former colleagues, some who I had worked closely with and others I barely remembered. At first, I thought they were just checking in, but then I started reading the content. Most of them were desperate cries for help. They wanted me to come back. The most shocking email, though, came from Olivia, the head of client relations. She was someone I had trusted. Someone I thought knew better than anyone that a company is only as strong as its people. She had been with Titiline longer than I had, and she knew Steve as well as anyone. Her email was long, full of apologies and regret. "Please, your name. I don't know what happened. You were the backbone of this place, and now everything is falling apart. Steve is losing clients left and right. It's chaos. He's making decisions that don't make sense, and we don't know what to do without you. The clients are furious. I don't even recognize this place anymore." I sat there reading her words, and I felt a rush of emotions. I wasn't the kind of person who liked to gloat or rub things in, but there was a part of me that couldn't help but feel vindicated. Steve had always made it clear that I was replaceable. He treated me like my worth was tied only to the work I did, and now here he was, desperate, begging for me to return, but I didn't respond. I couldn't. I didn't know them anything. I was done. Or at least I thought I was. Then came the phone call. It was a Saturday, and I was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee, watching Sophia play in the yard. I almost didn't answer, but the number that popped up was unfamiliar. When I picked up,